Hello, I'm Adam Evans, co-founder and director at Levick Stanley. Levick Stanley was set up in 2017 with my business partner, Jonathan Cox, to help organizations recruit differently for change, transformation, technology, and data roles. This is series 2 of Change Makers. If you haven't caught series 1 yet, it's on our YouTube channel. During the series, I'll be speaking to a range of people from across change and transformation to learn about their experiences, what they're working on currently, and what they think the future holds for our sector. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Rachel Quinn, a senior transformation leader who has worked at companies such as Marks & Spencer, Essential and Currys during her career. We'll be looking at the impact on organizations, teams and individuals of running multiple transformation programs at the same time. We've known Rachel for many years, and amazingly, she even started her career within a recruitment firm before seeing the light and changing tact somewhat. I've been lucky to have worked with Rachel on both sides of the recruitment equation. I've successfully placed someone into her team, whilst also getting her an offer at one of our leading and indeed best clients, which of course she turned down. However, forgiveness does come naturally to me. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Good to see you. Glad to hear that forgiveness has finally happened.
10 years, but we got there. Yeah, indeed. So a few questions for you, if you don't mind. Change used to mean a defined program with a start and an end. You mentioned to me before it's a bit of a constant thing and overlaps quite often. What does that do to people who have to live through it?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious thing to say is that it can feel really exhausting. Constantly thinking about what's next and when will this thing be done? Will it ever be done? Or I'd like to say it's the way we do business now. And therefore, what we really want is people that can thrive, ideally, or at least survive in those conditions. But I also think it's modern life, right? And it's digital life. If you think about, growing up, my parents used to go to the supermarket once a week, and they'd come back from the supermarket and they'd complain because the supermarket had switched all the aisles around and they couldn't find the eggs because they put them in a different aisle and they always knew where the eggs were. Or, you're watching the 6 o'clock news and the newsreader's different, and that felt huge and massive. Whereas, switch to today, and we are now so used to just constant change, even in our personal lives. So, you switch on your preferred streaming service and you go to where you used to go to get your favourite TV show, and that's all changed around. Or you open your phone and it's upgraded and it looks completely different. Or you open your laptop and there's a new programme that you haven't seen before. So I would like to think that we are better at dealing with it generally, but it can be really tiring. And I think it's also really different, not just for the people that are living through it and experiencing it, but it's also really different for change teams, because a lot of us grew up working on a project or working on a program, or kind of later on working across a portfolio. But even then, that portfolio was quite defined. So typically, you had your strategy and you had your very fixed portfolio of work that supported that strategy, and it was prioritized and it was governed and it was like put into nice buckets, and it was still quite neat. But I think now, we're in this world of test and learn, and everybody's encouraged to continuously improve everything. So even the things that were quite static before, if you think of like your annual people processes and how you do your performance reviews, that was quite fixed. Now that continuously improves every year. So what used to be called BAU, I'm not even sure if there is such a thing as business as usual anymore.
No, it is fascinating. Do you think that's driven a lot because of just the way that tech is rolled out? So, like Apple would roll out a product before it was even finished. The whole sort of, let's just get it out, let's see what happens, we can get it through testing phase, use consumers to test it. And so obviously a lot of the change stuff that we do or we see now is enabled or underpinned by technology. Do you think that's part of the reason why it's just a constant moving beast and maybe nothing ever does get finished? Go live just continues to go live.
Yeah, I think it started there for sure. I think there's also the appetite to have things sooner and have them faster, and perhaps more willingness to not wait multiple years for like a perfect, of course doesn't exist, solution, but getting something out more quickly. And then what I've seen over the last probably 10 years or so is that approach adopted in non-tech change. So whether that's kind of business process change or changes to ways of working, seeing that agile, iterative approach, test and learn approach applied to other things as well. Hence why I think you now get changes in things that aren't even official projects, just because everybody needs to be continuously involving everything.
Yeah. And then does that make it difficult in terms of sort of resource planning? because I see quite a lot of organizations going out and going, right, I've got 2 year worth of projects to do. We're going to staff that or do that with perm teams. We're going to go out and build a team. We're going to build a sort of project team or a delivery team, whatever you want to call it. And then has it been thought through properly? What happens in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Do you just move those guys off? And I do see that quite a lot as well. So do you find it, in your more recent roles where you're a bit more senior, sort of senior transformation, that it's quite difficult to then resource and allocate resource to these ever-changing things?
Yeah, good question. I think I've definitely seen, probably in the last 8 or so years, in my last couple of companies, maybe even longer actually, I've seen a real continuous change of the org structure around transformation and delivery structures. Probably exactly to cater to that point. So perhaps you'll have a big fixed portfolio and that will land. And then actually there's less kind of big strategic change, or it's more specialist. So you bring consultancies in. So you then redeploy and decentralize change and transformation resource into your various pockets of the business. And then perhaps something else big pops up in a couple of years. So then you centralize again. And I've definitely seen more of that centralization and decentralization. I think having been in roles where I've been responsible for resource planning, it's then thinking about what is that permanent resource you need, and why do they really need to be perm? What are the traits or the knowledge or the kind of relationships that mean it needs to be a perm resource? And then thinking about that specialist contract or consultancy resource that you bring in to beef up the team where you need it over certain time periods, or where you need certain specialist knowledge as well.
Yeah, I think, from looking in and sort of been doing it for 16 years, never actually done it, but sort of looking in and hearing it and what have you, I definitely sort of see that the most successful ones are a very balanced squad. So whether it's, as you say, a bunch of permies who get it, you bring people in with that subject knowledge, or then you bring in some sort of professional interim resource on top of that, an SI partner or what have you in a consulting mindset. Those kind of three things that overlap, that seems to be a good way and a balanced way of doing it. Not all of your eggs in one basket or bucket, whatever term you want to use. I think that's where I see it. But obviously, interested to see if that's what you think as well, really, is a sort of balanced approach.
Yeah, and I think what I've seen more recently, which is arguably the most important of all of those, is more resource deployed out into the business. So quite often in operational teams that can do projects. Doesn't mean they need to be trained project managers, but can deliver projects as part of their day job, and that can form part of these multidisciplinary squads across organizations. So not necessarily you're kind of grown up through, let's take project management, grown up through project management or grown up through consultancy and moved in-house, but more of your operational teams that can take enough of the skill set to deliver in their day job. And that is absolutely crucial from my point of view.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next point, actually. So when you're sort of thinking about that and you're asking people to sort of join a project or a program internally, that don't normally do that as part of their day job, but, sort of different parts of the business, do you see sort of change fatigue as a real thing? Like, hey guys, we've got another thing we're going to do. This one's called, guess what? Project Phoenix or Genesis or something. And then do people take a step back, like in a lineup, or do you think people do still step forward because they see it as interesting and exciting opportunity to develop their sort of career internally? Because I think I hear more and more about change fatigue, and I think it's part of that just continuous running. And as you said, thrive or survive, so there isn't an element of that. I'm just, kind of curious to see if people are still buzzing after Phoenix has been running for 2 years to do Genesis for another 2 years or what have you.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone's buzzing after Phoenix has been running for 2 years, even the people that are running the thing. I think that's a long old slog. But I think change fatigue can be a real thing. I think modern life can feel quite exhausting, let alone change. I think, like there's so many things commanding our attention or telling us what we need to be doing or telling us what we aren't doing at any one time. You think of this, if you've got 2 of these, if you've got one for work and you've got one for your personal life, and you've got your social media apps telling you things, you've got Teams, you've got emails, you've got, your phone calling, you've got your gym telling you that you haven't been enough times this month. Like there are so many things all the time. Change fatigue, I think it can be real. I think it probably depends on a few things. I think it depends on the mindset of the people. And that's exactly to your point, is this like eye roll, another thing, it's not going to work? Or is it, wow, this sounds great, how can I get involved and make it an opportunity for me, and multiply that up by the amount of people you've got? Obviously, you need that in spades. It depends on capacity. So if you've got people that are already exhausted or stressed, or you've got an operation that's already at capacity, trying to land more on top of that feels tiring before you even start doing the work. The thought of doing more feels really tiring. And then I think people's experience of change as well. So are you delivering things that are genuinely better and help people, whether that's customers or whether that's internal colleagues? Or does it feel tiring and does it feel like change fatigue because it's another thing that doesn't help and it's not explained clearly and you've got to get your head around it and you're not given support to use it? I think all of these things help answer, like, does it feel fatiguing or does it feel like an opportunity and something that's really exciting as well?
So it's kind of from the outset, isn't it? And whoever's responsible for it and responsible for kind of getting some people on board, it's that communication piece at the start. This is actually exciting. This is why it's exciting. And honestly, if you do this with me, we can do great things. Not, oh yeah, we're doing another office move and I need your help to do that, or something slightly less exciting. Yeah,
exactly. It's talking about it in the right way. And then it's also starting to deliver some stuff, because sometimes change fatigue comes from a place of, you've told me 14 times over the last 14 years that I'm going to get a new laptop and I'm yet to see it. So sorry, but I just don't believe it's going to happen this time. That is real as well. So I think that's what I mean by someone's experience of change. Like, do you deliver what you say you're going to deliver? And then do people trust it's going to happen this time? That's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Talking sort of about people and, the differences there. What is the difference between hiring a great change person and then actually getting change to land in an organization successfully?
Yeah. Linked,
but
I'd say.
Or the same thing.
Linked, but not, it's not a kind of, it's not the sole answer, I guess is what I'm saying. So what's a good analogy? So food, cooking, love to cook. You hire a great chef, that is not going to do the job on its own. So that chef needs to have a kitchen, needs to be clean, needs to be light. You've got to have the hob, the oven at the right temperature. You've got to have good ingredients. And if you apply that analogy to kind of workplace and change setting, those ingredients for me are great sponsorship, like people that really sponsor and back it and really believe that and show that active sponsorship. Those ingredients are leaders up and down the organization that support, remove roadblocks, encourage their teams to get involved, that are aligned across the piece. That is the right mindset, and people with the right mindset that are willing to come and join you. It's capacity. Or I think if you're in an organization and you're looking around and you don't see these things, it's then being bold and either having the right conversations or making the brave and the bold decisions to make sure those things can happen. And that's things that as a change hire, you often spot very quickly. You don't really have the authority to do anything about, and quite often it's hard to influence. So really passionate about making sure that those conditions around the change hire are right, as well as actually bringing in a great person.
Yeah, makes complete sense. And I guess as part of your role, if you're looking for an opportunity to explore that as much as you can, talking about the ingredients, does this feel right? Are the stakeholders that I'm dealing with, are they engaged? Do they have the authority? Will they give me the authority to go and do it? And I think, you talk about stakeholders quite a lot. And I think that when we're on a briefing call with a client, they're like, must be good with stakeholders. It's like, well, it's just kind of an obvious one. And it always makes me smile, because like, if you ask the question, they're going to say, yes, I am, and you can do it, you can do, every time. And I think successful people in what you do, and what we find for other clients is they are good communicators. By nature, they have to be able to communicate up and down. They have to communicate sideways successfully, quickly, with a great deal of empathy as well. So I think that's all around stakeholder engagement. So, when people look on a CV for the word stakeholder, it just kind of blows my mind. It's, oh, good, it mentions it 64 times. They must be great with them. It's like, maybe, but actually it's, you need to meet that person, understand how they can influence and what have you. I think people do underestimate how important effective stakeholder management is, whether you're sort of managing up or managing down or indeed sideways. Sort of not quite finally, but after years of running change inside big organizations like you have, what's pulling you, if you like, towards a slight career change and looking down the sort of contractor or professional interim change practitioner type career path?
So always love the variety. I think we all do. That's why we're in these roles. Always love the variety. And I think did a bit of time in consultancy where you got kind of flown into a client for sometimes for a meeting or sometimes for a month or a couple of months to do a project. had to get up to speed really quickly and enjoyed that side of it. And then have often worked in really big organizations where, you know, your next project quite often is a different organization if you're working in multi-brand companies, or it feels like it because you've got a different leadership team, different set of stakeholders, different problems. So really enjoy the challenge of that and want to do more of that over a condensed time period. And then I think secondly, as I've kind of gone through my career and got more senior and led bigger teams, which I've really enjoyed, I guess on the flip side, I found I've got further and further away from the work, and it's the work that I love, like really passionate about change and transformation. So interim gives me an opportunity to go back and get a lot closer to the work as well, which is really appealing.
That's it. Yeah. So you're kind of hired in as a subject matter expert to, on Monday, hit the ground running and, you know, add value immediately. And I think that's exactly what I look at it as. I think, you know, you are slightly overqualified for the role, but the reason for that is that you can do it straight away. You know, there is no upskilling time. There's none of that. There's no real training. It's like, can Rachel land on Monday and do this for us? And the answer is yes, she can. And I think that's what's great about it. And I do feel that, by nature, it does allow for both permanent and contract side by side. So I see that, and I can see, you know, see the appeal too. And how are you finding it? Just sort of, you know, being out of that permanent work and just starting to look. I know you're having a bit of a break this summer, which is great. But like, how are you finding it? Are you finding it interesting, loving it? You know, difficult on a Monday morning to think, what am I doing this week? Or like, how are you finding that?
Yeah. So gave myself a good month off to really have a break.
So
which is
off,
fab.
No Strava, no gym notifications, no Teams.
No,
Very
absolutely.
good.
All
Very
off.
good.
Yeah, that was fab. And yeah, starting to have a few conversations, which is good. Finding it really, really interesting, really energizing. Lots of great roles out there. Loads of companies doing lots of things. Finding the process very different to perm. So perm feels quite linear. You know, you kind of put your CV forward, you're shortlisted, you have an interview, you probably have a second interview, you maybe have a few more. You get to meet quite a lot of people across an organisation over an extended period of time. You have lots of reflection time. You go to the offices, you know, all this stuff. You get a really good feel for one another. Contract, I'm finding, is much more speculative. So there's not necessarily a role to start with, and it's about being open to all the things and having all the chats and kind of seeing where it leads. But then I'm finding that where there is a role and it feels like a fit, it is fast, and you got to make a decision quickly and be ready to drop everything and start on Monday. So very different process from what I'm used to, but enjoying it, and very encouraged. I'll say that there's so much great interim work out there by the sounds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that, I feel that the market's been as sort of buoyant and buzzing as it has been for the last few years and the last few months. So hopefully that continues through August. You never quite know with August, but it can. So hopefully your conversations continue in that manner. But yeah, you're right. It does move quite fast. And that's the joy of doing it from our side as well. Is suddenly, you know, a leader or someone has got a problem. They come to you. You know the problem's a solution. Who is that solution? And it's like, right, there you go. There's your solution. There's the person. And I think when you know people like that and know you like we do, hopefully we can find some really good problems for you to go and solve for different clients. And I think you're right. It's go, go, go. And it probably starts suspected. Like, I think I've got a problem. And then it's like, where does that lead? Where does that lead? And at least a few conversations and then all being well, this is a great role. You've done an amazing job for 12 months. And then what's next kind of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, honestly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really good. And thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you a great summer and hopefully you find something very soon.
Thanks, Adam. Great to chat.